So recently I've been working on something on myself called false sense of urgency, which is basically when I find myself completely overwhelmed, anxious, in fight or flight, and I'm just like operating really, really fast, trying to make decisions on things when I know I should be making them from a more concrete, more grounded, and just a more intuitive place. But for some reason, I don't know why I'm so overwhelmed. Well, recently I found out that this is called false sense of urgency, and it's something that a lot of us deal with and a lot of us suffer from. And sometimes it's really good and sometimes it's not good at all. Yeah, that's what we're going to talk about in this video. So let's get to it. Hey, I'm Donna from the Donnas. I'm an artist and I'm a nurse in New York City. And basically, I try to help you take better care of yourself and move through life with a lot of inspiration and a little bit of overwhelm. I have a podcast. I have this YouTube channel. If you want to follow, like, and subscribe right now, I'd appreciate it. I also create merch and a lot of my art available to you on my website, which is right here. Okay, let's get to it, shall we? Okay, so I work in a hospital. I'm a nurse, and things are pretty urgent there because we're dealing with people, we're dealing with people's lives, and we're dealing with, you could die. So the problem is I take that sometimes and I take that urgency and I take that energy and I carry it over into my daily life. And a lot of us are guilty of doing this, and it puts a lot of pressure on us. And that's what false sense of urgency is. It's basically taking this concept of being urgent and it has to be done right now or in the moment and putting all this pressure on ourselves. It creates overwhelm and it creates anxiety. And most importantly, it creates us a situation where we're out of our intuition because we kind of get ungrounded and out of our bodies. And so we're not present and we're not making intentional, informed decisions and sitting in our intuition and kind of figuring out what's best for us. In my day-to-day life, we're talking about me and what I'm guilty of, and I'm sharing this with you guys. I tend to think this urgency needs to come in with a lot of things where it doesn't. And it creates more anxiety for me. It creates more overwhelm for me. Sometimes it makes me feel like I don't know where to begin, or I don't know where to start, or I don't even know how to. And I'll have like great ideas, especially when it comes to creativity or this project, for instance, or even YouTube. And I just don't even know how to start it. I maybe start it and then I get distracted and I go to look up something on the internet, false sense of urgency, let's say, and look up, some terminology. And then the next thing you know, I'm in some random rabbit hole about 17th century art. And it's like, how the hell did this happen? But because we're so distracted and so not in this place of groundedness and we're not listening to our intuition, we're kind of like going off and spiraling off, and our bodies and our minds are in fight or flight, and it's really not good. People who are great at creating false sense of urgencies besides us: companies, corporations, your boss, your friends, your significant other, stores when there's a sale, social media. It's that fear of missing out, because if we feel it's urgent, we're most likely to act on it, right? And don't get me wrong, sometimes it's really, really good for you. Like, say you're not good at, writing reports or having a project due at work, and you're someone who kind of like waits till the last minute and procrastinates for whatever reason. So maybe you set maybe the deadline is the 15th of the month, and then you set a deadline for yourself that's the 5th of the month to kind of get you moving, to kind of get you working on it, or to just because like you're probably not going to finish it on the 5th, but at least you start. You're going to begin somewhere. That's okay. And that's usually a good thing for us. But doing that too much can actually be harmful instead of good. If you're doing it all the time, it can fog up your intuition. It can kind of, make your decision-making not so great. And it can elicit the fight or flight response within you, which affects your mind, it affects your body, it affects your thinking, and it can really unground you and throw you off. It also creates this feeling of sped upness, which also kind of feeds the false sense of urgency. False sense of urgency can lead to rash decisions and then actions that you may not want to take, and ultimately outcomes that you don't want. Sometimes it also makes us lose focus in the moment, and it doesn't allow us to have intention when we're in the middle of doing something. False sense of urgency is rooted in anxiety, it's rooted in anger, and it creates a lot of activity without productive results. And a lot of times the solutions we come up with, we might regret, and we might only be like band-aiding them in the moment. We may realize down the road that we could have done it a lot better, or there could have been a more creative solution to this problem if we would have given ourselves a little bit more time to breathe, relax, and look at the whole picture. When it comes to creativity, false sense of urgency doesn't allow us to be our creative and best selves. This can be creativity such as art, painting, figuring out, what to write, or even figuring out what to allocate to a budget, whether that's at work or even in your home life. And a lot of times we hear from people, just come on, make a decision. How many times have you heard this? I mean, when it comes to takeout, when it comes to which place you want to go to for dinner, when it comes to go ahead, just throw on an outfit. I don't care what you wear. And then like you go out to dinner and you hate what you ate. And then you go and you look at that selfie and you're like, why did I wear that outfit? It was awful. But it's because in the moment you just made a quick decision for the sake of making a decision. And you realize you waste a lot of time that way. And then also down the road, you're unhappy. Like I said, when you see that selfie on Instagram, you're like, I'm not posting this, or please don't even tag me in that one. You have to learn how to trust yourself so you know when to make the right decisions that align with you. And you have to be aligned and you have to be grounded so you know that, should I work fast right now in this moment, or do I need to slow down? Do I need to take my time and look at this thing from the entire whole big picture perspective, or do I need to be down here and make the decision from this place and space right now? But aligning with your intuition and kind of having these practices and figuring out where your intuition comes from. Are you a gut responder? Is it just a yes or no? Do you have to feel it emotionally and kind of feel it in your heart chakra and your space and feel it like in the center of your chest? And for some people, it feels like a flower blooming. Do you have to sleep on it? And do you need a day to say, I don't want to even think about this. I'll sleep on it and the right thing will come to me and I'll wake up in the morning and I'll know the answer. Only you know what's right for you, and only you know what is best and what's worked in the past and how to kind of feel it. And that's why it's important to kind of get in touch with your intuition. But one way to do it is by slowing down and realizing that false sense of urgency is actually happening and we're kind of in it. So one of the best things you can do is actually identify that it's happening. For me, if I'm in false sense of urgency, a lot of times it doesn't allow me to be creative because I'm trying to be solution-based in the moment, or I'm trying to just like put something out. For instance, YouTube. I try to put a video out every week. So sometimes it may be not the best video, or it might not be as creative as I can be because I feel this urgency where I just have to put something out. It also doesn't allow me to be super clear in my decision making, and it doesn't allow me to look at my decision making from the present, because sometimes when I'm in that, that urgency, I'm looking at it from the past, or I'm looking at it so future oriented instead of being right here in the present and seeing what decision needs to be made right now. One of the things I ask myself is, if you don't have time to make the decision, should you be making the decision? I also ask myself which problems are important and which problems are urgent. And this allows me to prioritize. Is this an important problem? Is this an urgent problem? Again, if it comes to saving someone's life, it's urgent, clearly. But if it's, figuring out that the YouTube video needs to be recorded tonight, does it have to be recorded tonight? Could you delay it one day and would it be a lot better? I mean, I know I just used someone's life in a YouTube video, which is probably the worst example, but it's what I could come up with right now on the fly. Also, from what I read in some articles, this false sense of urgency is apparently huge for people in the summertime. Again, how many of us want to, get that bathing suit body, or, want to book that trip so quick because the summer's here and it kind of crept up on us, or we have no plans for the summer and we like spin our wheels trying to figure it out. Or during the holidays, that rush of you have to get people presents, or you have to get gifts, or you have to get the holiday outfit, or whatever it is. But apparently it's really huge around the summer and it's really big around the holidays. Urgency can be good when it helps you prioritize, and it can be bad when it's your only mode of operating out of. You should use urgency in appropriate situations, kind of like seasoning or salt. Like if you overdo it, you're going to kill the whole dish, but when it's right, it's just right, and it makes it just that much better. False sense of urgency can also make you think that there's only one right answer, or that you have to act right now and immediately. For me, my intuition is typically yes or no, and it's an immediate response. And a lot of times, it's also telling me that I need to be patient. Something will come in yes or no, or it'll be like, you have to be patient and you can't act right now. So again, that's me, and you have to figure out what yours is. But again, if I'm in this false sense of urgency, I totally get blocked and disassociated from that connection that I have with myself. And honestly, the majority of people who I know who are very intuitive people are very, very patient people. They don't really operate out of this false sense of urgency. They kind of slow it down. If they have to make a decision, they do, and it's usually the right one, because they know how to prioritize what's urgent and what's not. So, for some examples of false sense of urgency in my life, Emails, texting. Years ago, you weren't accessible after hours. If somebody wanted you, they had to leave a message on your voicemail. Maybe you would get back to it, maybe you wouldn't. Nobody could call you on the way home. No boss could email you after work. They had to wait until the next day. And things were a little bit more slowed down. And talk about even years and years ago, you couldn't even text or call. You had to write a letter. So it's just recently that this kind of like sped upness has been happening with everybody having accessibility to us, everybody knowing what's going on, or kind of, not expecting us to, take a moment or pull back in regards to how we respond or how we get back to people. Outside events, people, events, holidays, they can all create a false sense of urgency around you. So kind of be aware of that and look out for that. Moments in my life where false urgency has creeped in, especially when it comes to this product, feeling like I've had to put out merchandise in a timely manner, having to align it with the holidays, making these deadlines for myself that I don't answer to anybody. I'm my own boss, but I was creating a lot of these deadlines and putting a lot of pressure on myself. Like when it comes to my podcast or when it comes to my YouTube channel, texting, Instagram, social media, putting up content, answering people back, not posting in a while, all of these things can create a real cycle for us that is not healthy. So how do we fix this? So one is we can set one deadline for us. You pick a deadline for yourself and you figure out what's urgent, and then you can slowly add maybe 2 to 3 more things that are urgent. Again, you have to find your bubble of how prioritization works for you and how you're going to code things and prioritize them in your life. You have to have a limit as well on maybe what you make urgent for the day or what you make urgent for the week or the month, and figure out your prioritization matrix, so to speak. You also have to be easy on others. Not everyone's going to respond like you. Not everyone's going to be as quick as you are, and you can't kind of put that on them. You have to wait. So a lot of times, if I ask somebody something or I'm looking for a response on it, I usually give people like 24 to 72 hours to respond back to me. Unless we really need an answer, like say we're working on a project together, or I'm like an art director for something, or we have something going on creatively where we have to make a decision. But usually I give people at least 48 hours to respond, because people's schedules are all over the place. And plus, they don't need anxiety from me. I want them to work with me and feel good about working with me. The biggest thing is don't pass on the pressure or the false sense of urgency to others, and don't accept it from other people. Again, those energy vampires, setting those boundaries, setting up those energetic blocks, whatever you got to do. You don't want other people's false sense of urgency. You also don't want to put that on other people. Ways that people can put false sense of urgency on you, their fears, their drama, them wanting a reaction from you, or wanting results that don't necessarily impact you. Like sometimes people will say to me, oh, not a lot of people watch that video. And I'm like, why are you upset that I didn't get as many likes or views on that video? I'm not upset. I just wanted to make it. Or we didn't sell this many t-shirts. You didn't sell that. This t-shirt, I don't think we sold many of them, but you know what? I love this t-shirt. I'm so glad we made it. It's one of the first photographs I've ever taken. This woman is from Little Italy. This is her sister. And yeah, this portrait meant so much to me. It helped me win an award, and it kind of started my photography career. So I don't know why you're upset that so many people didn't buy it. I love this shirt and I'm just glad we made it. But that's what I mean, where other people are kind of putting expectations or reactions on you that you're not even trying to elicit from yourself. So when do you know that you have your intuition kind of cooking and on and at full blast? Basically, you're calm, you're at ease, you don't question your final decision, no one can make you second guess yourself. And for me, I kind of feel vindicated. When you like finish a puzzle or finish a book or finish a project and you're kind of like, yeah, man, that's it. I did it. Like, that's kind of how I feel when I know I made like a really, really good decision. And I know that it's coming from a place that isn't urgent and it's coming from my intuition. When you're grounded, you can kind of see all the complexities of the situation and angles of it. Kind of like think of a bird like flying over a city. And when you're not, you kind of make decisions where there's going to be like a case and scenario where it's like, if I make the A decision, I'm going to be missing out on these things. If I make the B decision, I'm going to be missing out on these things. And you kind of always feel like you're going to be missing out on something. Where intuition, you kind of feel like you've made the best choice and it's kind of been apparent from the beginning. So it lets you feel good and not stressed out or overwhelmed or wishing that it was over already, or, feeling so urgent and like sped up. You kind of approach it with grace, you approach it grounded, you approach it with some ease, and you're able to prioritize and figure out how to fit it in or how to handle it without it causing you to become undone, because you're in the moment and you're intuitively aligned and you've kind of pushed the urgency away. And so you really know the best way to handle it. So if you watched this far in the video, I'd love to know how false sense of urgency has creeped up in your life, how you've handled it. Definitely answer in the comments below. And if you want to listen to a podcast episode where I go into this more and talk about how it's impacted my life and ways that I've handled it, you can do that as well in the comments. I'll link it below. That's pretty much it. Follow, like, subscribe, and I'll see you on the other side. Bye, guys.